The beautiful noise that you may be hearing in the background are the noises of the renovation in our shul, and I can't wait for the finished product in just a few months to have a beautiful, brand new Mikdash Ma'at. But anyhow, what I wanted to speak about today in preparation for Parshas Behaaloscha is the few psukim where it discusses how Bnei Yisrael traveled in the desert. Sometimes they would be stationary when the clouds were over the Mishkan, and they wouldn't travel. And then when the clouds of glory would leave the Mishkan, that would be a sign that it was time to depart and it was time to travel. And it was so unpredictable. It was Al Pi Hashem Yachanu, Val Pi Hashem Yisrael. It was all based on God. So it could be that they traveled for a few days and they were exhausted, and then the clouds hovered and it was time to camp. And then they set up the 3 camps, which I would imagine took a lot of work and a lot of effort. And then they slept that night. In the morning, it was time to travel again. So one would think that perhaps the most difficult part of the journey was having to unpack and then repack and start again. That the traveling was the hardest part. It wasn't the unpacking, because you want to relax, you want to stop. But to be Vayi bin Soa, to continue, that's what made it so difficult. Rav Shimshon of Hirsch points out that, you know what, camping was probably equally as difficult, if not even more difficult. Because think about it for a moment. What was the plan? The ultimate plan was for the Jewish people, when they left Mitzrayim, crossed the Yam Suf, into the desert, received the Torah. Their job was to continue traveling into Eretz Yisrael, to the land of their forefathers. This was it. And God said, no, today you stop. And then he said, you know, you're going to stop for 2 weeks, and then you're going to travel, and then you're going to stop for another few weeks, or maybe just for a day. But every time they stopped, they were prevented from reaching their eternal homeland. And it was brutal. It was just so challenging for them every time to have to stop. When you want to get to the promised land, when you want to get to that destination, you're so eagerly waiting for that opportunity and that moment, and for Hashem to say no. It's challenging. V'shamros mishmeres Hashem, but nevertheless they followed what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them to say. And says Rav Shimshon of Hirsch, the message was to teach us discipline, that the road to our promised land, the road to Eretz Yisrael, is not going to be so simple. It's not going to be one of just excitement and a direct line, a linear line into the land, but it's going to be one filled of ups and downs, of starts and stops. And when we understand that, and we put our full faith, our emunah and bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then, only then, will we be able to handle and manage the vicissitudes of life, the ups and downs, and make it eventually, ultimately, into Eretz Yisrael. And the same idea for us as we think about the Galus. Our exile has been long and weary, and the wars that we face seem to be unending. But we're waiting for that moment when the clouds of glory finally pass over or land right back on top of the Mishkan and say, this is where you are, this is it. It is going to be a time of peace and a place for us to all rest. And God willing, all of us will have the opportunity to rest in the Holy Land speedily, soon, and in our days. Have a wonderful Shabbos.